I'm really excited though today. We've got one guy, Richard Jones, and actually we have to say he's very handsome. And he's a soldier, but also he won Britain's Got Talent. He's a magician, so really excited to him. Yeah, really. Yeah, want to get a few tricks there. I can't play any magic tricks. I'm useless. We also have a lady called Jenny Stallard, and she's like a business coach, journalist, author. She's done quite a lot, so really looking forward to her. But I'm going to try and let Richard in. He's hopefully here.
Can you all hear me?
Hello, gorgeous man. Look at you.
Thanks for letting me join you for this afternoon. It's I feel like I needed some company. It's good to see you all. Thanks for getting me on. I appreciate it. I've been out and about enjoying the sun. And in fact, I needed a bit of a break. I've been sat out there reading this morning. And,
have you?
I think I'm overdoing it. I don't want to get a heat stroke out there.
I love your room. It literally looks like you're in a little studio. I love it.
It looks good from that view, but from my view, it's the opposite. So this is the view that no one sees. So behind the camera, it's absolute carnage. There's things everywhere.
So Richard,
it looks good though from the screen point of view.
It really does, actually. It's really lovely. But Richard, how did you get into magic? I mean, I've watched little clips of Britain's Got Talent. You're amazing.
You see, hidden in the background of this photograph, we have a clock. Amanda, can you tell us what time is on that clock?
It says 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Alicia, if I take that back from you. Alicia, can you please tell us what time have you created on the watch?
10 to 2.
10 minutes to 2.
Yes.
Okay, you're 10 minutes early.
Sorry.
But that's okay. That's okay, because I didn't tell you why this is my lucky watch. You see, this watch was a gift given to me by my friend Fergus before he passed away. And he's going to be the hero of tonight's story, because engraved on the back is one of his favourite mottos. Alicia, can you please read that out for us?
A good soldier is always 10 minutes early.
It's been a pleasure to be back.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. Yeah, in all honesty, I didn't start performing magic till quite late on in life. So I was in around about 2010 is when I joined the army.
Yeah.
And with the army, I've been very, very lucky. I've been all around the world to some of the most amazing and interesting places. But every time I went on a trip somewhere, I was always with a group of people who I'd be working with. And we'd always be on a transport for hours and hours and hours, whether it's a plane or a coach or whatever. And that gave me the perfect opportunity to try out some new things. So I started learning little card tricks at first, and then I got fascinated with the art of deception and how you can manipulate people's ideas and thoughts within a magic trick. And I kind of fast-tracked through, because the thing I love about the army is they're the most honest audiences you could ever get. So if I was ever rubbish, they would tell me, and that allowed me to grow really quickly. I like to.
Yeah.
And then obviously I did Britain's Got Talent 2016, and the rest is history, basically.
Well, the history it was fabulous, because I watched you on there in your uniform and that. Oh, very nice.
Yes.
And,
Sorry, yeah.
and the magic tricks that you were doing were pretty close up. So, anything that went wrong, you could see it. It was marvelous. Thoroughly enjoyed you. You're such a good winner. You deserve to win that.
Thank you very much. It is terrifying going and doing magic on live TV, considering you don't always know where the cameras are going to be and which angle is going to be filming you. It is a little bit scary. And the interesting thing about the uniform is, I mean, not a lot of people ever recognise me anymore, or even at the time. But what they do recognise is the uniform. What's quite funny is whenever the people I work with are ever out and about in public and they're in that blue uniform, very often people ask them for magic tricks. So it's quite interesting that people think it's some sort of magic regiment now, which I tell them they all know at least one magic trick and pretend they're me if they get asked.
Do they like it? Do they like the idea?
Yeah, I you know what? It's quite funny. I've got a lot of banter with the people that I work with, and they've always been great. When I first was on TV, I thought they were going to be a bit tough on me and a bit brutal, but actually they were lovely and they're really supportive. And I think that's because I've done so many shows for the troops over the years that I think now they're kind of just pleased to see that I'm doing bigger and interesting audiences around the world. So I think they're quite happy for me. I hope so.
Did Britain's Got Talent, did that change your life completely?
I was very, very lucky. In many ways, it changed my life, but in also lots of other ways, I made sure that it didn't change my life too much. And what I mean by that is when I was young, I always wanted to be in the army. Always wanted to be a soldier, like my big brother, and my parents were in the army as well. And when I won the show, I was very keen to try and do shows as a magician, but I never wanted to lose my connection with the army. So I actually stayed in the army, and the last 2 years I've taken a little bit of a break to do shows, and then I'm going back next year full time again.
Oh, you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to take time out.
Yeah, so the army are really, really helpful, actually. They really like to support their troops to make sure that they're happy, and they do a great job of it. A lot of sports people have performed in the Olympics and the Commonwealth Games who are serving soldiers as well. The army give them time to do that. I took the last year, so 2020, I took off as they gave me the year off so that I could focus just on magic. Wow. But it turned out that was also the time when the world pretty much came to an end.
Yes.
That was the worst time I could have taken off
the worst
magic shows. But luckily my tour is back on the road in October, as long as everything goes to plan. So I'm looking forward to that. And and most of my shows, my live shows, incorporates magic and my army career as well. I kind of merge them together to add a bit more interest than just a magic show.
Have you ever had like a trick go wrong at all, Richard? You know, like you've been on stage?
All the time.
Oh,
and you know what? Every magician messes up all the time.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes a good magician is you never realise that they've messed up. See, when I go onto stage, my tour show, for example, if you went to see it one night and then the next night, quite often you would get a completely different show. And that's all because it's so interactive with the audience that depending on how they react and how the volunteer is on stage determines what kind of magic I do and what direction I take the show in. Yeah. And that because a lot of what I do is psychologically based and I try to predict what people are going to do and try to influence people to do other things, you can't always guarantee that you're going to be able to do that. You might get a volunteer up and they react completely different to what you expect, which is when you have to change it up. But I mean, hopefully no one would ever know that the show or an illusion hasn't gone according to plan, because I've got so many different ways to change the show if we have to. Right. And talking about things going wrong, my best story about things going wrong is one of the first shows that I ever did after Britain's Got Talent. Yeah, was a huge stage in a holiday place. I can't remember exactly where it was. And I always remember I was really excited to get out on stage, and we did the rehearsal and it was perfect. Then just before the show started, I peeked through the curtain, I could see all the auditorium filling up. There was a new guy who turned up, who wasn't at rehearsal, who was a stage guy, and he said, "Oh, would you like me to put a layer of fog on the stage as you walk out? It might look pretty cool." Yeah. And at the time I wasn't experienced in big shows, so I naively said yes. Even though you should never do anything that you don't rehearse, is all I can say, because what was supposed to be a tiny layer of fog just on the floor of the stage turned out to be a complete stars in your eyes moment. And I walked out to stage and the whole stage was almost like it was on fire. I couldn't see a single thing. And I walked out onto stage and I fell off the front of the stage and straight into the lap of two ladies in the front row.
Oh, but they were fake, though. The ladies.
So that was my big moment, my big show just after Britain's Got Talent. Please welcome Richard Jones. I walk out and straight off the stage.
How embarrassing!
Did you hurt yourself?
You know what? I probably did, but I was so panicked, and I was probably full of so much adrenaline, and I just wanted to get on with it that I luckily just got straight back up onto stage. And you know what? It was so funny that I think most of the audience thought it was planned. They thought it was supposed to happen.
Keep it in.
Yeah. I don't think my bones would cope with me doing that every night, but for that one special show, it made it quite exciting.
The magic, did it come from your father or mom or somebody in the family that started you off in the magic?
No one was into magic in my family, but as in no one performed magic. But my parents used to take me to a lot of magic shows, and my dad, I used to remember, there used to be, it's not there anymore, but at I think it was Charing Cross Station, train station. There used to be, as you'd go through the barriers, there was obviously it splits into two, where you obviously leave the station one way, and if you go the other way, it's kind of something that you would expect from Harry Potter. You go down this weird tunnel, and the only thing that was down in that tunnel was this little dark and dingy shop that was a
Wow.
magic shop that didn't really advertise itself. It was kind of this big secret in London where all the magicians would go and meet other magicians. And I always remember my dad found out about it and he took me there as a kid. And I always remember being fascinated by just how mysterious this whole shop
Yeah,
was.
magical.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was literally like a Harry Potter kind of moment. I always remember being fascinated since then. But then I didn't really get into magic until it was a stormy night and a big, huge guy called Hagrid knocked on my door and told me that I was a wizard. And yeah, the rest is pretty much to a T from Harry Potter from there.
Who was your go-to magician, the one you thought, I'd like to be like him?
Good question. My favourite and most, the person I look up to the most would be Darren Brown. I think Darren Brown is just phenomenal. And he's so clever, he's very smart, he's interesting. And the thing I like about him is it doesn't matter what he does, he can make anything look interesting. He could make paint drying on the wall look fascinating. He's just, everything about him is inspiring. And actually, I was a volunteer on stage before I became a magician.
Yeah.
This was around 2009. I went with my parents to see Darren Brown in the West End, and he actually got me onto stage. And the funny thing is it was a hypnosis part of his show. And he said, I'm going to try and hypnotize you all as a whole. But if you're scared of needles or you don't like the look of blood, don't get involved. And a little secret about me is every time I ever give blood, I'm always the lunatic who ends up lying flat down on a bed with 5 nurses fanning him down. That's me.
Sounds like me having a needle.
It's embarrassing, especially for an army guy to admit, but I'm always the person who faints and embarrasses everyone. But I thought in this show, at the time, I thought, he won't choose me. I'll just get involved anyway. And out of everyone, there was maybe 4,000 people in the auditorium. Probably around 100 or so were stood up in my position, kind of stood up with this hypnotic test that he'd done. He came around and he ended up choosing me, to my shock. He got me up onto stage. And then I realised why he'd said, if you're scared of needles, don't get involved. Because he pulled out a big needle.
Yeah.
He put my hand on the table, and the idea was he hypnotised me to think my hand was wooden and I couldn't feel it. Then he got me to lift up the skin on my hand, and he gave me the needle, and I pushed the needle through my own hand.
Oh, God. I'll be passing.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I mean, to his credit, I couldn't feel it. It was like a miracle. It was amazing.
You did it?
I couldn't feel it. But at the same time, although I couldn't feel it and it was amazing, I was still watching a needle go through my hand. Luckily, I didn't
Going
faint.
in your hand.
My mum said all the blood just drained from my face, and I looked like I was about to pass out on stage.
Richard, was there blood?
No,
Did it bleed?
there was a little tiny bit of blood just as I pulled it out.
Yeah.
But it only creates a tiny hole, so obviously a needle, so it wasn't too bad. But it was
Just the
fascinating.
thought of it,
seeing
I
that
feel
work.
sick.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. It's not what you expect to be doing when you go to the theatre for a night out. But yeah,
No,
so,
definitely
No,
not.
not at all.
You're going to do Trooping the Colour, or has it been already? I thought it was this weekend.
So I'm not on it this weekend. I'm not entirely sure actually what the plan is. I assume it will be a cut down kind of parade because I don't think they're allowed guests in the audiences yet. It was a real shame. I was going to be involved in the one last year. But this year I'm not involved, but I will be next year. And I very much look forward to that. I was very lucky in 2016 that the Trooping the Colour was the weekend after I won the show.
Oh, wow.
On the BBC. I will always remember it, and I've saved it. On the BBC, they showed the Queen going on to the Mall for the parade, and they said, here's Her Majesty the Queen coming on, played the national anthem. And then straight after that, they then turned around and zoomed in on me and said, and here's the Britain's Got Talent winner. And I got name checked right next to the Queen.
Oh, lovely.
How do your parents feel when they see your beautiful boy and he's done all this? How do they? Well, I know how I'd feel as a mum, but how do they feel?
They're very proud, I think. I was very, very lucky. They were in the audience, and they've come to see Trooping the Colour many times.
Yeah.
I was actually, that year in particular, I was quite exhausted because, bear in mind, I'd won the show the weekend before, and every day that week, although I was doing lots of interviews and I'd been traveling around London doing interviews and TV spots, I was also still in work at 6 a.m. every morning, looking after the horses, getting the uniform ready for the parade.
Yeah.
And I always remember getting on the horse that morning of the Queen's birthday parade and being really, really, really tired.
Yeah.
And when we got down to Horse Guards Parade Square, where it all happens, I kept not meaning to. I was trying to stay awake and stay focused, but every now and again, I think I was kind of like dropping a little bit, and people next to me were kicking me, saying, "Wake up, wake up, wake up!"
Oh, God.
And it's kind of lucky because I didn't know they were going to zoom in on me. But could you imagine if they said, "And here's Britain's Got Talent winner," you zoom in, I'm like half asleep on the floor. That would have been horrendous. I'd been kicked out.
Oh no.
Oh, funny. So Richard, where can people come to see you and that? When does